Hello all, just a quick video today on augmented sixth chords. So we'll just sort of jump straight in. An augmented sixth chord is a chromatic variant of chord 4B. So chord 4B we'd expect to be used as a kind of predominant chord. So a chord that would land on chord 5. So here's chord 4B to 5. Maybe something like an augmented sixth chord varies that by flattening the bottom note, the third in our 4B chord, and sharpening the top note, the root of our 4B chord, to give us this augmented sixth interval between the A flat and the F sharp in this case, but between the third and the root of our 4B chord. So there's that augmented sixth chord, an Italian sixth in this case, resolving to chord 5. It's worth noting now that an augmented sixth sounds exactly the same as a dominant seventh. In fact, an augmented sixth as an interval is enharmonically equivalent with a minus seventh as an interval. So those are exactly the same interval, they're just spelt in different ways. So in this case we've got an A flat to an F sharp, that's an augmented sixth. If we're going to spell that as a minor seventh, as in the seventh in a dominant seventh chord, it would be A flat to G flat. And this respelling, this A flat to F sharp, reflects the way in which this chord resolves. This chord resolves outwards. The A flat and the F sharp move outwards to an octave G. And in fact, with all augmented sixth chords, the bottom note and the top note resolve outwards to octaves. And yes, that spelling result is a result of the way in which this chord resolves. So where a dominant seventh would resolve inwards, we might expect that kind of inwards motion. This chord resolves outwards. So there we are. There's an augmented sixth chord and the way in which it resolves. So there are three types of augmented sixth. There's an Italian sixth, that same three-note chord that we've had. And then there are two others. A German sixth takes an Italian sixth and just adds a perfect fifth above the bass. So effectively completing our dominant seventh. It's basically the same now as a dominant seventh chord, just spelt differently. So we get that chord, A flat, C, E flat, G flat, going to G. And then we have a French sixth. And a French sixth is again exactly the same as the Italian sixth, but this time we add a tritone above the bass. And that tritone kind of anticipates one of the notes in chord 5. It anticipates the fifth of the dominant chord. So those are our three types of augmented sixth. The Italian sixth with just three notes, the German sixth with the perfect fifth above the bass, which makes it the same as the dominant seventh, and the French sixth, which includes a tritone above the bass, which anticipates one of the notes in the chord that we're going to resolve to. So that's basically it. I just want to stress right now that the really key thing with the augmented sixth chord is that it resolves outwards. So you can see that with our blue arrows, the top note and the bottom note, the A flat and the F sharp in this case, resolve outwards. They move outwards by semitone to an octave. So the F sharp moves up a semitone to the G, the A flat moves down a semitone to a G. That's really key. That's how an augmented sixth chord resolves. So we're going to move on, and basically those of you that are familiar with jazz or jazz harmony will be familiar with this kind of technique because it's more or less the same as tritone substitution. So a tritone substitution in jazz is where you have a sort of a 2-5-1 progression called 2-7, 5, and then 1. And you replace 5-7 with flat 2-5-7. So if I just play that progression again, but with the tritone substitution. So here's the normal one again. And here's the same progression, but with flat 2 dominant 7th instead of 5-7. Okay, so it's like this because both this augmented 6th chord and the tritone substitution in jazz rely on the same feature of the dominant chord, which is the tritone. So this is the tritone. It's like the interval in a dominant 7th chord, which gives the chord its crunch. So here's C to F sharp. This is the same tritone that we had in our augmented 6th chord earlier. So in the Italian 6th, we had this A flat, C, F sharp. And that tritone, in fact, all tritone intervals are symmetrical. If you invert a tritone, you get a tritone. That's not the same with all intervals. Not all intervals are symmetrical. So, for instance, if I take a major third and I invert it, I turn it upside down, I get a minor 6th. So those are fundamentally very different sounds. But the tritone, you invert it, you still get a tritone. So more or less the same kind of sound. And it's this symmetrical quality that we're sort of taking advantage of when we write augmented 6th chords or when we use tritone substitutions. So here's an A flat dominant 7th chord going to D flat major and a D7 chord going to G major. So I'll just play those two. So again, we've got that A flat 7 going to D flat major, dominant to tonic, and we've got that leading note in the chord going up and the 7th in the chord going down. That tritone here resolves inwards. Same with the D7 going to G major, so same tritone again, F sharp to C, and this time it's going to resolve inwards. So these two dominant 7th chord, this A flat 7 and this D7 chord, contain the same tritone. This is C to G flat or F sharp, and this is F sharp to C. Because the tritone is symmetrical, this tritone sounds exactly the same, or at least very, very similar within these two chords. And so within an augmented 6th chord, what we're doing is we're taking that, in this case, a sort of an A flat dominant 7th, and we're saying, oh, well, that's actually got the same tritone in it as a D7 chord. And so we can take an A flat dominant 7th and kind of resolve that tritone outwards to G major. So instead of going A flat 7 to D flat major, we can go A flat augmented 6th to G major. It's just a different way of resolving the tritone within this particular chord, and that's the key thing that we're playing with here. Let's sort of move on from that and have a look at a few augmented 6th chords in context. So Here's an Italian sixth in context. We've got this, again, a sort of... Oh, sorry, my bad. Let me play that again. So again, we have that outwards resolution. We've got this augmented sixth interval, this time between the D at the bottom and the B sharp, augmented sixth. We've also got that tritone, and both the tritone and that augmented sixth are going to resolve outwards. We can have a look at a French sixth in context. I'll just play that through. So here, that French sixth, we've got the augmented sixth, this time between the F natural and the D sharp. We've got the, so we've got that tritone as well, between the F and the B, to make it a French sixth. But sorry, the most important tritone is this D sharp and A, because that's the one that's going to resolve to that E major. So there's that French sixth in context. Again, we've got that outwards resolution of the augmented sixth. And we've got that sort of resolution of the D sharp to the A here. And this time that's going to the E and the G sharp. Okay. And then let's have a look. We've got a German sixth in context here. I'll just play the phrase. The German sixth is right at the end of the phrase. So we have... just play that augmented sixth again. Okay, so if I just play that, we have the augmented sixth, this time between the C natural and the A sharp, and that resolves outwards to B and B. Again, all of these chords are acting as a kind of 4B chord. So we're in E major here, we land on 4B. So 4B would usually be an A major chord, but we've flattened the third to get C natural, and we've sharpened the root to get A sharp to make sure we've got that nice outwards resolution to the B's, the dominant chord. And it's a similar situation indeed with the Italian and the French sixth before. So hopefully that all makes sense. If there's one thing that you want to take away from this, it's just that kind of outwards resolution of an augmented sixth, and indeed just that an augmented sixth chord is a chromatic alteration of chord 4B. Those are really the key takeaways. Those of you that are familiar with jazz harmony, this is definitely, really very similar to tritone substitution, and so that might be a really useful way in for how you're going to understand this particular harmonic technique. Hopefully this is useful. Hopefully this is something that you can put to use in your composition work. Thank you very much, and yeah, see you soon.